Namaste and greetings. Welcome to your favorite show, Manage Better. Today's episode is a very special one for me because I've been wanting to do this session for a while, and I just wanted the right person to be in that show. Usually, most of my, and this is 109, so all the 108 with one or two speakers repeated. So you can say 100 plus guests. I have had something to say in those sessions. So those sessions were either about quality management, which is my day to day job. They were either about LinkedIn, which I am fairly okay with. They were either about maybe sometimes a little bit about finance, marketing, operations, and having spent a career in industry for about 30 years, I usually know a little bit about those topics. So it was easy to have a conversation. Today's show is not like that. I have zero idea about what I what the topic is. So I needed somebody who was far, far, far better than all of us, and can actually bring some light to this topic. The topic is artificial intelligence, and I am more acquainted with natural stupidity than artificial intelligence. So this was really, really tough, but I'm glad all the 108 episodes have worked as preparation for this episode. Hi everyone, just in case you don't know me, my name is Anshuman Tiwari. I am a senior operational excellence and quality management professional who works in transformational programs across large enterprises to transform how businesses and processes are run. As you can say, hobby over the last 4 years, I also do things like this, which is borderline madness. My wife, of course, says it's full certified madness, but here I am. I also coach mid-career and senior professionals into coming unstuck in their career. And as a part of my effort to bring some lesser known topics to the forefront and expand that knowledge base, I do this series. So today's episode is about artificial intelligence, and as I said, I my knowledge is limited. I won't say zero. I work for IT services firm, so I won't say zero. And I'm generally a curious kind of a person, so I if I don't know about something, I try and find out. But today's guest is way beyond all this. Abhinav Aggarwal. Abhinav is over the last decade as founder of FluidAI. Yes, last decade, right? So you and I have learned about AI in the last 2 years. This man has been working on with it for over a decade. He has helped companies like Bank of America, Mastercard, and several others to generate 50x revenues or returns rather over their artificial intelligence investment. Co-founder of the company Fluid.Ai, and has helped, listen to this, has helped Warren Buffett's conversational AI chatbot. So we'll ask him about that experience, but more importantly, we are here to learn. He's on a mission to build conversational AI that feels real and wants to be the first person to pass the Turing test. In my promo for this session, I did mention about Turing test that in simple terms, Turing test is when the artificially generated conversation or content appears so normal, so real that it can be mistaken for human. So you can't make out the difference, right? So and even experts can't make out the difference. So that's the test. Simple words. Right? So this his mission, of course. Has taken him from a two-person startup to the cover of Forbes magazine. He's surprise, he's a chartered accountant and has self-learned coding. And in some years ago, the TechCrunch Disrupt Global Hackathon, he won that hackathon. I think within 24 hours or something with some coding hack, all beyond me. So we'll ask him all that. Uh, all in all, the person who can talk about AI with some authority. And it has taken me some time to land him. And so we hope that this session will be worth the wait. He's passionate about music and can be often found with his guitar. Um if you were not already impressed, Fortune magazine has put him as 40 under 40, and Forbes has put him under 30 under 30. So I don't know how old he is because he's made both the lists. So we'll ask him. So here is the man, Abhinavji. Namaskar. Welcome to the show.
Hi, great to be here, Anshuman.
Yeah. Yeah. So a little intimidating kind of an introduction. I almost skipped a beat on the Warren Buffett part, but
Mhm.
obviously that must have been some experience. So uh, let's start with a little bit of that so that we are both warm up, and then I have a list of questions for you, and obviously, audience will also have some questions.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So I think that the first time we actually got to work with Warren and I got to meet him in the US. I think it was one of the most game-changing experiences of my personal life. Right, there was a moment in time where um I had to have lunch with him, and we were essentially building this. We got this opportunity to build the AI version for him. He was going to be on the
Mm,
cover of Forbes' 100 years anniversary, and they said we want to show what the next 100 years of uh, of of the future is going to look like. And so then we came up with this idea that okay, we're going to make a version of him that it's slightly more fun, right? The biggest thing in the magazine is that you want to ask the person a lot of questions. You have things you
mm,
want to talk to them, which are very relevant to you, right? You might be interested in about knowing what books he's reading. Someone might want to know what his interest in crypto is or thought process on crypto is. Uh, so we built an AI version of him that you can interact with on the phone. You ask him questions, he'll answer back to you. And when I got to meet him, he actually gave me three words that
mm,
completely changed my life and the way I thought about it. So the most popular question, right, everyone asked Warren's AI was, "What should I invest in?" And him being him, I think that's fairly apt. We kind of expected that. But when I met him and I asked him this question, his thoughts of what one should invest in, and I was very nervous and I was, literally sweating from my palms. And he was such a humbling personality. It's like, just relax, don't worry. And he said, invest in yourself. And then he went on to tell me the story about how he was actually a very poor communicator. And he was, in fact, someone to be very nervous for public speaking. Um, and then there was this Dale Carnegie course that was happening. Dale Carnegie was the deal, and it still is for many people even today. And it was about $100 back in the day. So this is like in the 50s, 60s, that era. Um, and he took the course. He spent the $100, and he said it just changed his life. Like he ended up getting so much confidence that he proposed to his wife, and it just changed this entire perspective on life. And the rest is history. So I think that was my personal biggest learning. I think we used to learn, but we used to not spend money on courses. We used to not invest in learning, and I think that fundamentally changed it for us.
that's awesome. I think that's the perfect warm up to the conversation today. Though apart from my color of my hair, I can't be a match to Warren Buffett, but we will try. So I have a list of questions. This conversation or this show of mine, Abhinav, is more conversation, and just for record, this is recorded as well, and it is available much later as well. So even if people are unable to join live, we make sure that they can catch it later. And during this show, we will also accept some questions from the audience. Though I have done that exercise earlier and collected some questions, so I have kind of mixed them into 4 or 5 buckets so that we can learn from you. So ready for it?
Yeah, yeah, that's perfect.
Okay. So one question, of course, which was for everybody, and it is a question I have also had, even though I've known a little bit about AI. I can't say that I can code or I can really, but since I work in the industry, I have some use cases and we have experimented and tried things all. So I have a little slightly better appreciation of what it is.
Mhm.
But the general public is it's very difficult to today. Everybody is saying, we are using AI.
Yeah,
A year or so ago, I joke about that somebody had come out with a very prominent clothing company said that this is a AI designed shirt,
yeah,
and not even designed, made with AI or something like that. And
correct, correct.
with all my whatever limited technical expertise, I could not figure out what AI they would have used other than maybe adjusting the measurement of the collar and the cuff and other things based on whatever database existed of men's collar and sleeve length.
Correct.
Other than that, I'm yet to figure out. So there is a lot of misinformation here, more than information actually.
Mhm.
So it is confusing for people. So in your words, as somebody who's deep into this, is working in this space, what is AI in simple words for most of us, and then we will peel the onion and get into a little bit more that what is it for maybe more complex or not complex, as in more advanced users. So
Yeah.
over to you. How would you explain this to a 5-year-old or maybe a 10-year-old? Five is too young, but maybe 10. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. And I'll probably use a 5 or a 10-year-old as an example to give you that difference in perspective, right? So I think that traditional, like this is a very simple definition of AI that a lot of people that I've talked to actually didn't know. And once they got it, it really made a lot of sense. Like, what's the difference, right? I think if you go back and you look at computers, right, it's a very standardized process, very simple, right? You give it a logic, it will follow that logic, and then that's done, right? That's the process. Um, Now, even if you come back to that application 20 years later, it's going to execute exactly the same way. That's what gave computers their reliability, their the value that you kind of got from it. Now, there came this whole new school of approach which said that can the machine learn kind of like a child learns, right? So you take a 5-year-old or a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old, right? uh, they have certain skills, and then you kind of you start giving them feedback, right? You give them positive reward, negative reward. If they do something good, like if they take their plate and they put it, dinner table plate after they're done eating and they put it in the kitchen, that's a reward. If they drop the plate and on the floor, that's kind of a negative. Give them a little bit of like, oh, you should be more careful. And the kid is learning from all of this essentially, right? And they said that what if we take computers and give it the same paradigm where you keep giving it feedback? So you're not giving it the logic of how to do something. You're just saying this is the end goal. Like I want clean plates in my kitchen and a clean house. And you're giving it rewards and penalties. But the machine is figuring out on its own what's to be done, the logic, right? The traditional world would be someone would sit and code, okay, get up from chair, then see dirty plates, how many plates. So they go pick up plate, dirty plate one, go put it in, then go come back, pick up dirty plate two from the table and put it in. The problem with that approach was now what if someone's dirty plate is fallen on the floor and you've coded saying pick up plate from table. So suddenly the algorithm would then someone have to come back, recode it and say, okay, now let me add this additional condition, right? Then what is the definition of dirty? If the plate, someone wiped it and left it on the table, but it still has germs on it, it's still considered dirty, right? So this is the traditional world where you go infinitely, keep improving the algorithm, keep improving it manually. But with AI, you're just giving it the end state and saying, learn it. This is what we want. And the machine does a lot of it on its own. And it keeps becoming smarter and smarter. Uh, and just from feedback, uh, like, oh, good job, bad job. And that's about it, right? And that fundamentally changes the way you build something, and the speed at which you can build something, and the scale at which you can build something. So a machine that learns like a child or an adult would from feedback from situations. That's what we would define as AI.
cool. I think if I was 10, I would probably start to understand what you're saying. Because this makes sense, a lot of sense, the way you explain that the machine can learn. Some years ago, I think when my LinkedIn journey was starting up, I made a very crude attempt at explaining AI and machine learning in a 2-3 minute video.
Okay.
And with whatever little knowledge I had that time, and the knowledge hasn't expanded yet, but and it was slightly similar, but much more cruder. I would say. I would think of this tic tac toe game. So
Mm.
you can actually train the system to play a tic tac toe game, which this is noughts and crosses for others. So same game, tic-tac-toe, not noughts and crosses. So you can actually program a computer pretty easily to never lose the game. It may not win, but you can
Yeah.
program it to never lose the game, because
Correct.
that's how the game runs. So that is very, very basic level of programming, and you can make it complicated. You can make it multiple, metrics and all that. There used to be another game when we were kids. I was kid much many more years before you were a kid, but the spot the difference. Two similar looking images will be there, sketches will be there, diagrams will be there of a room with some two people in there, some curtain, some lampshade, and this and that, and you spot the difference. If you start training the system to computer to spot the difference, the easiest way is to build grid. So turn this thing into a 9 to 18 or whatever 64 squares
Correct.
grid, and say that, okay, compare grid by grid, and wherever you see a difference, that's the difference, and then maybe assess the whole thing. So I explained all this, and that video actually got quite a bit of, because it was an easy explanation. It was inaccurate but easy.
Yeah.
Uh, and uh, then I went on to say that, now imagine you don't have to make the grades, and the computer starts understanding that the most common differences are between shoes, curtains, lamps, based on the history of the 100,000 games that it has already played, this
Right.
kind of image.
Right.
That is an advanced level that we are now seeing. This was not possible 25 years ago because computing power was not there. The logic was there, computing power was not there. I mean, from Alan Turing's time, we know how to do, but the computing power was not in our pocket. Now it
Mm.
is.
Yeah.
Would you think that this logic, this last 1 minute that I explained, still holds true, or it is already mm, inaccurate?
No, I think it still holds true. I would just add a flavor of it, saying that uh, more than history, if the AI basically now is like if those two images, when it's comparing, and um, let's say it makes a mistake in that, right? Like say
Mm.
the situation is
Mm.
more complex. Like in one grid, there are two differences,
Yeah,
and the computer will probably identify it as just one difference.
one
Uh,
and move on.
yeah, and move on. But you can now tell the computer something like, oh, these were actually two, you identified it as one,
Mm.
and it will come back next time, and it will learn from even that situation.
Yeah,
So just an
fair enough.
enhancement to the base, but the base is correct.
Fair enough. Okay, we are already getting quite a few questions and comments. So, to my audience, I can say that please let the questions keep coming. I will, share it with Abhinav in some time. But peeling this onion a little bit more, Abhinav, for the audience, that we now today see AI in every day, in all kinds of things. And sometimes we don't even know that AI is being used
Hmm.
and how it is being used.
Correct, correct.
So, could you give us a few examples from your knowledge as to where are these things in day-to-day use that we are seeing already? We may not
Mhm.
know that this is AI based or something. For
Correct,
example, there is a lot of AI in mobile phone camera. So the camera
hmm,
images are improved significantly using understanding of the time of the day and the lighting and many other things, which can be called significantly AI, because in this case the phone is able
correct.
to understand the situation. So that is one example that whenever I am asked, I share this example, but I'm sure you have better examples.
Yep, yeah, absolutely. I think AI seamlessly, is almost there in every, nowadays at least, with every digital thing that you touch, right? So you're sitting down and watching Netflix, and the show ends, and it needs to
Mm,
figure out, how do I keep this person continuing to watch something? That next show prediction is driven by an artificial intelligence algorithm. Uh,
mm,
it could be your Google Maps on your phone figuring out the right route optimization. It will leverage a layer of AI. Your Amazon Alexa or your Google Home that you have, um, they leverage AI in a big way, just for the interaction and understanding what you're saying, and then responding back, doing that relevant action. All of that needs a lot of AI layers and tooling. The way I break it down for everyone is that there are, because AI is such a broad term, right? And you actually have three layers to it. So the old
mm,
foundational layer was machine learning, then came deep learning, and today it's generative AI. All three
Hmm.
streams are still very valuable. Like they, I think people make the misconception that okay, generative AI is the new this like 5G and deep learning is 4G and machine learning is 3G, but it's incorrect because they're just different approaches to solving problems essentially.
Hmm.
And a very simple example is machine learning is you want to predict something like this, even this Netflix example that I gave, right?
Hmm.
Uh, Even deep learning is you want to predict something like, hey, which show should this person watch next? And you will train it on all the past shows that all people have watched. Like, okay, someone who's seen X show, Y show, and Z show will like if you've seen a lot of business shows, they'll probably like Shark Tank. That probability
Hmm.
goes, so that's the machine learning, deep learning methodology, right? Where you're giving it a lot of labeled data and then you're saying, okay, learn from this data, like your grid example is a classic example of machine learning
Hmm.
or deep learning, where it's you've given it some training data and then it's learned from that. Generative AI is the new kid on the block, which is essentially they said that putting all this data together is very hard, right? Training data they call it. That if your grid example I'm coming back to, I have to give it like thousands of grid images. It's going to take me a lot of time to set up that example, right? Because then I have to get 1,000 images which are the same with some difference in it. Then I have to map out what the differences were. Then I'll give this set to the algorithm saying now learn this. So
Correct.
very complicated, right? It could take me 2-3 months to set this up if I have the right motivation. What they said was, can the AI learn without training it? Just give
Hmm.
it access to the information. Can it just figure things out? That's generative AI. So they just then said, oh, we'll just give it the entire internet, which is petabytes and petabytes of data, and it's just learning from it. And that's what allowed the AIs to become so intelligent because we moved away from the previous era of saying, literally, like create a training set and do this.
Hmm. So that actually, you are saying that, and this is something that is debated these days, Abhinav, that the all the information available on internet, um particularly that can be easily accessed, is not behind a paywall or some kind of a
Yeah,
protection, is the data set for all the generative AI that we see.
correct.
And
Yeah,
that's one of the reasons why some of these organizations are now considering suing OpenAI and other things that you are using our data, and
to learn from.
OpenAI itself
Yeah,
is
yeah.
using so much of data.
Yeah.
Fair
So
enough.
like you gave
Hmm,
it all these books and you gave it New York Times articles, right? So let's say if you read the book Atomic Habits, now if you ask the
hmm,
AI a question saying, I'm not able to stick to my habits,
hmm.
and how should I go? How should I become better at setting up, improving my life with a better
Got it.
routine? It will give you the answer, but there's a high probability a lot of that content will come from blogs about atomic habits because that was a very popular book, right? And it really created a lot of vibe on the internet as well. So it'll probably use a lot of James Clear's methodologies in the answer. So technically James Clear will say that okay, I could sue them because it's learned from me and now he's kind of giving my information
Giving
out to them.
out
Yeah.
uh,
And
and
I've
mostly giving it out free, or
free. Yeah.
at very limited. Yeah.
Yeah. Or even if
Um,
they're charging, they are getting the money, not me. So
yeah.
it's worth
Okay.
it.
But that's a topic for another day. So just getting a little further deeper, so we figured out what in simple terms AI is, and a little bit more you talked about three generations of the 3G 4G analogy that you gave. So we are now getting it a little bit, and today the most common form that is available to all of us is generative AI, because that has the most consumer application as well. So
Yeah.
people, I think it is popular also because more consumer applications can be written uh, in that sense. So normal people like me who may not know the technology behind it,
Yeah. Yeah.
can use. So anybody who can use internet can also use Chat GPT or any other
Correct.
similar Claude and Gemini and anything, and they don't have to know what is happening
Yeah.
uh, behind it. So, but this has far more deeper things. So even going beyond generative AI, so many industries can be transformed. You spoke about some. use cases. But are there any other deeper use cases which are complete shifts? For example, let's say I keep saying that the world moves forward when agriculture, education, and medicine is modified.
Correct, correct.
Uh, Till these three areas are not impacted by any new technology, the world
Right.
actually doesn't move forward. So, medicine,
Right.
agriculture, and education, these
Correct.
three, you can call it healthcare, agriculture, and agriculture includes all the weather and all those other phenomena.
Yeah, yeah.
Have you come across anything in these three areas or any other similarly deeply transformative area for society in general, where you think AI is now already making a difference or could make a difference next year in 2 years' time?
Yeah, I think, if you look at it, healthcare definitely massive impact, right? And if everyone is following the Nobel Prize
Hmm.
announcements that happened, right? Two of them were AI driven. Uh, One was for protein generation, right? So when you are kind of doing any kind of drug discovery, or coming up with a drug, you're essentially putting proteins together. And when you're putting these proteins together, they can be put, they're like Lego blocks, right? You can put them in, and then like multiple types of Lego blocks. You can put any combination together to make a protein up. And scientists
Yeah.
spend an inordinate amount of time of figuring out that protein order and then putting it together to come up with a great medicine. And then it goes through clinical trials, etc. Right? That process is very time consuming and very ineffective, at least when it's done through humans. Now they're
Hmm.
using, like how your generative AI can write an article, right? And it can basically stringing together a great set of words in a beautiful format, and giving it to you. So they said that imagine we do the same, but for proteins. Can we string together the right proteins because different proteins don't match together? There are lots of rules. Like the
Hmm.
English language, proteins have their own language. You can't.
Correct.
Uh, and I used to hate grammar class, so I used to be really bad at it. But there are a lot of these grammatical rules and even basic rules that you have to follow. So when they gave it to a machine, it's phenomenal. Like it could do protein generation at another scale altogether. And therefore, you're going to see this big revolution that's coming in drug discovery. And AlphaFold was that one that won the Nobel Prize, but
Yeah.
that technology of being able to actually fold the proteins in a particular order and come up. I think there's going to be a big impact there. Uh, Number two, I think is going to be a great leveler. Uh, Technology has always been a divider of people, right? If someone from a village won't get a job if they've not used a computer or not got access just because they've been in a village.
Remote. Hmm.
They might not get a job in a corporate because hey, you don't know how to use a computer, or you're not good with Excel, or you're not good at writing emails in flawless English because maybe natively you've been speaking another vernacular language all your life, right? Um, so that used to be the big divide that technology created, which now is going to be technology is only going to level it, right? Today, that
Hmm.
person will probably write a better, more flawless email than one of an English academic if he uses AI. If that person can just leverage a chat GPT or any other or Claude or any other AI platform. And now you can just talk to them, right? So it's going to become so easy for these people to interact in any language, still have their communication understood, be able to do things that were earlier not possible by just talking to a machine. And I think that's going to be a massive, massive leveler across the world.
And maybe, I mean, just reacting to what you're saying, Abhinav, is that maybe because now we we have use cases where people have used a massive data set, whether LLM or other data sets, but massive. Let's, in simple
Correct.
words, is a huge data set. If
Correct.
people have used that, now other people also know how to use it, right? So
Correct.
the path in a way has been shown. So if there is some discovery in, let us say, medicine, people can find similar use cases in other areas. Like I was reading a year or so ago, and this is not classical AI, but maybe an earlier version, where researchers in the US, and this was a published paper where they were able to predict based on parameters available instances of breast cancer in women of certain parameters that okay, if you qualify this age above this, genetic disposition or hereditary disposition XYZ, the chance, and it was able to predict before the instance of um, cancer was seen in these women. This
Correct.
was path breaking because this was the first time cancer could have been predicted in an actual human being, not in a
Correct.
theory sense.
Correct.
Uh,
Correct. Correct.
and and these some of these women who obviously you can't prevent it because it will happen. So while you can predict it, you might not be able to prevent it as of now.
Correct.
So they were not able to prevent it, but they were able to predict it, and therefore early intervention was possible. And all these cases were were normal, stage one kind of a case. So
Correct.
that blew my mind that if this happens for a lot of things,
Mm-hmm.
then of course you and I, or maybe our children, could be living 150 years, 200 years, or something.
Right.
Uh,
Right. Right.
uh, anyway, some questions coming in, and we will take some questions. Rather, you will take some questions because this is one topic I have zero clue.
Right.
Um Tarun Kohli he's asked a couple of questions, so I am taking one of them. Will
Mhm.
AI kill power of human creativity eventually, as people may use it so much that it may lead to slowing down of our own creativity as a group of human beings?
Yeah.
Do you
Yeah.
see this happening, or that risk there, or is it being discussed?
Yeah, I think with humans, no, we have this uncanny way of finding creativity anywhere, right?
Hmm.
So you don't need to be restricted to find creativity. I'll give you an example. If you look at earlier everyone would make portraits and paintings, right? And suddenly when the digital camera came, or even the camera, actually not even the digital camera but the regular camera came, everyone was like, oh my god, creativity is going to die, right? Who's going to use who's going to make a painting anymore? Who's going to actually create a portrait anymore? So we're all screwed. And essentially people found massive amounts of creativity in the digital camera, or the even the traditional camera. And clicking a photo, there is so much creativity, right?
Hmm.
Instagram is kind of a big I would say proof of that, that just the ability to take great photos, the style, the angle, the approach, all of that is creativity. So it's just that the
Yeah.
form has changed, and the traditional world has in fact become even more valuable. Right? Today, someone who can paint a great painting can now sell his painting for crazy amounts. So
Correct.
that art, the traditional art, has become very valued and rare. And there's a whole new art where I would not imagine everyone in the world being an artist in back in the day. But today on Instagram, everyone is an artist. Everyone is taking a photo. Everyone is putting it up and sharing it. So I think it accelerates creativity. It changes its form. I think with the new AI, that's the same thing that's going to happen, right? You're going to be able to generate videos. You're going to be able to generate content. You're going to be able to generate images using AI, but that's just going to enhance the format of creativity. Like how creatively can you come up to the AI to generate something very different, and suddenly it just makes it a lot more accessible, right? Which is why the generation changed, because earlier you would need to
And that
learn the art of painting. Clicking a camera is a lot easier. Writing a prompt is even easier. Right? So being creative gets easier essentially.
Yeah, and of course, and this is not the first time in history something will challenge creativity and the nature of jobs and such, because when electricity came in, that itself was a huge change. When phones came in, that was itself, the original phones came in. When
Yeah.
automobiles came in, so this challenge for human race has been plenty. Of course, I do agree that this one seems to be far more intense and deep and with wider implications. But if
Correct.
you think that what would people have thought in 1900 when the automobile came in, they might also have been talking like this only, that the world will change and we will not be the same and XYZ and so on. And
Right.
next
Yeah.
thing then of course electricity and phones and TV and so many other things.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm not saying that this is the same or this can be the same. All I'm saying is that this is not the first time, and obviously this won't be the last time.
Yeah.
Um, Talking of creativity, it reminds me that a couple of years ago, you also wrote the first book in the world, which was co-authored with AI itself.
Yeah,
Tell
yeah.
us a little bit about that, because I completely had overlooked that, and then because you have been doing so many things in the last 2 3 years, that 2 years ago seems like 25 years ago.
Yeah, in fact, in my own answer, I forgot about it because it's been so long ago.
Yeah,
Uh,
it was. I just recollected that I think it came out in 2022 only, or 23 maybe.
so it came out
Yeah.
in October 22, and it was actually 1 month before ChatGPT launched. So ChatGPT launched in November 22. So
Hmm.
one of the interesting things for us was that we were actually way ahead of the curve when it comes to generative AI. Like we've been doing it for about 3 4 years now. I think a lot of people
Hmm.
heard about it only 1.5 to 2 years ago when this whole Gen AI piece kicked off. But it's a book is called Bridging the AI Gap. It's available on Amazon. It's written completely by an AI. Only the first forward is written by me and Raghav. So both of us
Hmm.
actually coded an AI algorithm to write the book. And ironically, the book is essentially about how great businesses succeed at deploying AI and why some fail. But
Hmm.
the beauty of what we wanted to experiment with was how the AI could write and can it get that quality in. And this was still 2022. It actually went on to be an international bestseller as well. So it kind of, for us, really changed the game that, today AIs have reached a scale where they can be truly, truly transformational.
Yeah. So those who are listening, if you want to learn and more importantly see what AI did even before ChatGPT did, and that too with our own Abhinav and Raghav, you can check out the book. We will try and drop a link to the book in the comments. But good that I recalled, because you had forgotten, I had forgotten. The world is moving way too fast these days, Abhinav.
Uh, Crazy.
So let's take one question, and maybe there are actually 4 or 5 questions, but I will summarize them. This is more about the ethics related to AI. So it is, of course, very powerful. Uh, Anything, including dynamite, which is powerful, can be misused, and it has been misused.
Yeah, yeah,
We are
yeah.
already seeing so many um, misuses or abuses of the technology available.
Correct, correct, correct.
Do you think this can be curtailed, or it is just like everything which has, I mean, you can use a knife to cut vegetables and also to kill
Yeah,
somebody.
yeah, yeah.
Is it that kind of thing, or can AI itself be used to catch misuse of AI and make it a little bit more fair in that sense? I'll give you one example that I know of, not
Okay,
example but one case.
okay.
Couple of years ago, Microsoft actually halted their face recognition program, saying that this was too unsafe for all of us at that point. So
Yeah,
they
yeah.
wanted the technology to develop. You know this, but just for all of us. So they actually halted their face recognition program for commercial use and decided to build it even further. And other companies also followed suit. So I just know of Microsoft, but other companies also cooperated in that, because otherwise it was looking very, very dangerous that if this technology comes through, then we don't know how to stop the misuse or abuse of the technology.
Correct.
Anything that is happening new in this space in terms of, and my particular question is, can AI itself stop the misuse of AI or abuse of AI?
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Like for everything that AI generates, you now have an AI detector that follows, right? So
Hmm.
images that are generated are very easily detectable that, hey, this image was generated by an AI algorithm. So, or this is a deep fake. Uh, so
Hmm.
that level of checking, I feel like you said, right? Even if an AI can break into a system, there will be an AI that will be able to protect the system as well. So that
Hmm.
general process will continue to work. I think where more of the, I guess, the challenge is coming in the ethical side is that who owns what the AI outputs, right? Because if
Hmm.
the AI is learned, like you said, right, it's learned from a New York Times article or a Reddit article or a Stack Overflow or whatever platform people prefer using, it's learned from there, their writing, then is it legally or ethically, should they be paid for this, right? Because the AI is
Hmm.
not outputting verbatim what it read, which is where it makes it tricky. Because copyright law is very simple, right? You take a book or you take an article, and if I take copy the same, I take your LinkedIn post, I copy the exact same LinkedIn post and paste it. Yeah, but LinkedIn will also say this is right, and then take mine out essentially. But the minute I'm changing it and outputting the same thought process but in a different format, then how do you actually manage that situation? How do you tell who's
Hmm.
right? Because that's what humans do as well, right? Like think about it. Like if a J.K. Rowling wrote a Harry Potter, she probably read a Chronicles of Narnia. She probably read a bunch of fiction novels and styles to come up with her own unique style. But she got
Correct.
inspired by all of them, right? So then, who's right, who's wrong in this situation, right? Like if an AI did the same, is it that the AI copied, or is it the AI's own unique output?
Yeah, I mean, in that sense, and I have been saying this for a long time that so I am from operational excellence quality management field. So Six Sigma, for example, is one of our core methods that we use. So to
Yeah,
improve processes and when I was training people on Six Sigma many years ago, and managing programs to train, there was this question that so and so company has copyright over this and so on, exact this, but there were other people who would modify the content and use it, and
right.
it wasn't. I My view was that this is anyway not original from the company that claims to have the copyright. It was developed in another company before they were the first to copyright it, and
Correct.
that way they got the copyright. So it is not nothing is really original in that sense. Everybody has been iterating at some point. So I totally agree with your logic there that it's very difficult to say that this is completely original from somebody because even Harry Potter has been inspired, and there are so many other literary works. Every now and then we have this claim that this film was inspired by that film and so on. So
Correct. Correct.
what really is original, though, we don't know. I am
And
looking for
humans,
actually a question.
yeah,
Yeah,
just one
so
thing
good.
to this was that humans actually work this way. Like literally, we get inspired and then we do something, right? So if you ever gone to a website designer, I mean, a lot of you would have built websites for a company yourselves. The first thing the designer asks you is tell me five other websites that you like, right?
Yeah,
And then I will
totally.
use that as a base to build your website. So literally, that's how humans work.
E- Even if you go to a Wix or a GoDaddy or a Hostinger or anything, the
Uh,
template, the WordPress template, or in the any other template that you get is a template. So it
yeah.
has already been built using knowing some five other or 10 other websites, and so you're right in that sense. Totally. A little Tushar Kar has made my job easier. I wanted to know what does Fluid AI do today.
Mhm.
So he's asked this question for me. So you want to take a minute to just share what you are doing today in as a company? Uh,
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. So our vision at FluidAI has been very simple, right? We want to allow people in organizations to unlock their full potential and do the best work of their lives by creating generative AI technologies for the enterprise that just help them get work done. Now, when you talk about the some of the biggest challenges that enterprises have is there are two big challenges, right? One is information is an absolute mess, right? How to do something, documentation is all over the place. So whenever you want to get something done, you're like, oh, okay, I need the SOP for this standard operating procedure or the manual of how to do this. And then you're like, oh, I can't find it in my company's document store. Maybe it's in someone's email. Then you'll send a couple of people emails. They'll forward you to someone else who has the answer. So you're like wasting inordinate amounts of time trying to figure out how to get something done. But if an AI can now ingest all of this information in and intelligently have it so that whenever you want to get something done, you're like, oh, how do we do this? And the AI answers, gives you all the sources. That is a fundamentally much better experience. You get almost 40% of people's time, this is a study that was done, that 40% of people's time in the workplace is spent in finding the information to get their work done. And only 60% is actually doing things. So if we can make that 40% time down to 10%, I think you can unlock a world of possibilities. So that's one of the key things we allow, an enterprise GPT that can sit internally on top of your information, whether it's for a department like a call center department, a customer care, or an operations or marketing and sales. And everyone gets this smart AI that's assisting them figuring out, like, if you're marketing, it's helping you, or sales, they're like, okay, what are our different, like, we have 400 product lines, tell me about this one, customers asking about this, I need a proposal prepared on this. It's enabling you. If it's customer care, oh, this call came in from the customer, what do I do next, how do I go about this, he's asking for these details. And then the last layer is we allow the AI to actually do actions as well, which means
Hmm.
that it's no longer restricted to just finding information. But if it needs to reset someone's, if it's a bank and the system needs to reset someone's password, can the AI do that on its own? Can it look up your emails and answer the questions automatically by connecting to your system? So can we automate a lot of the key layers that of things that the organization needs to do by putting a bunch of smart AIs together?
As you were speaking about this, and so I know you mentioned GPT. So this is like a chat GPT for the enterprise using the enterprise's data. So a large company, global company, let's say available in 100 countries and so on, and has multiple customers and so on. So you were saying the employees can use the existing data, including a simple question like, what are the leave, rules in Brazil, for example. I have
Correct.
some
Correct.
people there, so
Yeah.
I don't
Okay.
sometimes know, or in
Right.
Poland or something, or
Right.
in any other country,
Yeah.
including now in Ukraine, because of the current tension. Sometimes we don't know.
Correct.
So whatever is available in the enterprise, and whatever is made available to the to the AI tool, uh, it can look at everything and give me an answer in like 1 or 2 seconds. I will, of course, might have to verify it once again with an expert, at least in the initial stages. But that's what it can do. Okay.
Yep.
Um, I think I can get that far, so I can start imagining what it will be. My use case has been, of course, a very interesting one. We have a lot of data, so
Mhm.
lot of tens of thousands of projects, and I want to know in advance as to which project might turn red next month.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we've been trying to do that internally. That can we look at existing data, back test it, and see the projects that went red, what were the conditions that qualified them for red, and can I use that data today? So if I'm successful at that, then I'll let you know. Or if we might come to you and say, this is not really GPT, because I don't want an answer. I want some kind of a regression to be
Yeah.
done on existing data.
Correct. Correct. And
Sorry, audience.
even
This is this is the limit of my technology skills.
even things like, now the AIs are even picking up the phone and talking to customers, right, directly,
Correct.
and they're sounding so human. It's phenomenal, right? And they can do everything that a human agent would do at the care center.
Yeah. Okay. We are in the last few minutes of the conversation, Abhinav. So I will take more audience questions, because these are, they come week after week to my shows. So I'll take a little bit. Uday Sangani is a very senior technology and change consultant based out of Bombay. He's asking, what are AI agents? So
Mhm.
I have no clue, but you surely would know.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, no, absolutely. And that's where we actually, one of our specialities is building really high quality AI agents that you can interact with. So,
okay.
an AI, so an agent essentially, right? An agent is an AI that can think through its steps. So if you interact with a chat GPT, right, like at least over the last couple of years, earlier it was very simple, right? You asked it a question like, do this, like, give me an article on X. It would give you a simple answer, right?
Hmm.
But they said, can we build more reasoning into the AI, right? Like, can it think through multiple steps before coming up with an answer? Right. So if I'm
Correct.
planning dinner for two people, how should I go about it? And it just gives you answers. But Now it thinks, okay, two people, do they want it to be a romantic dinner? Do they don't want it? Are they just friends? Okay, then should I do this? Should I do so? It's kind of thinking through the steps essentially. That makes a core agent. So you can have
Hmm.
agents for different things, right? An agent that can even talk to other systems. So an agent that's maybe, let's say, I'm going back to the bank example, that's in charge of just switching on, what do you call it, blocking a credit card. If someone's saying a fraud is happening, checks it and blocks the credit card. Right? So you have a lot of these different agents that you can start developing. But the beauty comes is when you start putting these agents together as a team of agents,
Hmm.
and you have one master AI that's controlling all these agents and deciding what to do next, then you get this really beautiful system, right? So think about it. Let's say, again, going back to a company example, let's say it's a manufacturing company, right? And an email comes in from, let's say, one of the customers saying, my order of these 1,000 cartons, what's the status of it?
Hmm.
So the master AI will say, okay, let me send this to the order status agent. Okay. The order status agent says, okay, I need to look up the factory system to figure out, that his machine, like, has his what do you call, material been rolled out? Is it been packed? What's the status? Let me give it back. Then that AI might come back and say, oh wait, I just have the customer's email ID, but he has 7 orders. So which order is he talking about? I don't know. They'll send back this thing to the master agent saying,
Hmm.
figure out which of these 7 orders he's talking about. Then the master agent will design an email saying, and these are the 7 orders we have with you. Which order are you
Which
referring?
one?
So then the
Hmm.
email will go back. Then he'll respond in this order. Then the agent transfers it over. So essentially, it's become almost like a human, right? Because this is what would happen if I'm the support
This
agent.
is correct.
I'll drop a note or call up the factory manager. He'll look up and he'll do this. Then he'll come back to me. Then I'll.
Exactly.
So then the multiple, and then you can chain these all these agents to like work like a team. So it's almost like you've built an entire team of folks that are just doing things for you, but that are intelligent, that can handle situations.
So it's a lot more than just asking ChatGPT, hey, I have read about this quote. Who is the author?
Yeah,
And I do this a lot because I create a lot of content on LinkedIn. I have started using ChatGPT or Copilot a lot more, and both are similar. The background is same.
correct.
So to ask, I want to verify that this quote is actually a genuine quote and written by the same person that I am quoting.
Yeah.
So I found some simple use cases for these kind of things, and it works quite well.
You'll
Before we
notice
end, I
this
sure.
one thing is, you'll notice, like, when you even ChatGPT now uses some form of agent at the back, because if you notice, right, sometimes when you're talking with ChatGPT and you ask a current affairs question, right? Like what
Hmm.
happened in India's state elections yesterday. It will again give you a searching for web option.
Hmm.
Right? It will say, okay, I'm searching from web. And it'll take a little longer to answer. We
Correct.
ask
Correct.
who won the 2020 elections, it'll give you instantly. So that's also an agent because it's deciding, oh, this is current affairs. So I probably need to go to the internet, search the web, and get you this answer. Oh, this is,
Happened to me for something slightly different. I do post about books and all,
yeah,
and I had to verify something about a book, more recent book,
correct.
and I could see what exactly what you were saying, that the book was not obviously in the, and in that sense Gemini is a lot more updated. It has
Yeah,
more recent information. So I asked the same thing in Gemini. It gave me an
yeah,
instant answer.
right.
Chat GPT gave a better answer but took like 2 seconds more,
Correct,
or
correct.
maybe a very fraction of a second, because I could see, almost feel that this is going and asking somebody, hey Abhinav, do you know about this book? This fellow is asking about this book. That
Correct.
kind of a thing happening in so yeah, so we can see all of that. The one question, of course, quickly I wanted to ask is about what's coming next. This is, all of us are excited about GPT and the multiple use cases, and you educated us about some really interesting use cases and where it could take, and even enterprise GPT, those kind of things. But
Right.
this is all we can understand and see.
Right.
Give us something coming in the next 1 or 2 years that people like me can't see or can't understand today. We might
Hmm.
do tomorrow, but can't see and understand. today.
Yeah, even at FluidAI, we've been working a lot on this, and what we can see as two big revolutions that are going to hit the two big revolutions that are going to hit the system. Essentially,
Hmm.
one is an AI that can become a lot smarter in terms of the way it interacts. So
Hmm.
these models are becoming more and more of the focus is becoming multimodal, which means that it just can interact with interact and understand more modes. Right now, text was the only mode. You can see now they can start generating images. Right now they can this current era that's coming is they're talking very well in voice. Right, it can understand your voice and can respond back in voice. Soon it'll be able to understand video. It'll be able to real time see you and understand your situation or context as well. So essentially the models are becoming far more intelligent, and you'll see more and more of this where they'll start feeling like almost you're interacting with a human. Right now, it feels like you're texting a human. It'll start feeling like you're
Hmm.
interacting with a human because they'll talk back to you, they'll look at you, they'll understand you from your expressions, they'll understand your body language, and they'll themselves have a more visual appearance. Right now,
Got it.
even if you put ChatGPT in voice mode, it's just that little ball, but it'll start being like a person interacting. So I think that's one big trend. The other is the agent idea that I described, right? So this is the consumer side we're going to see. On the enterprise, we're going to see
Hmm.
these agents become phenomenally smart, right? The
Hmm.
agents are going to be able to do things at an enterprise level that are just crazy, right? Like they're going to be do very complex tasks within the organization. Like I need to prepare a budget for budgetary trend and put into a presentation for the next 6 months of the organization, and then a bunch of swarm of agents are going to come together and just prepare the first version very efficiently.
Hmm. This is mind blowing already. We many of us are struggling with what we today have, but thank you for a peek into the future. We have a lot of questions. So what Abhinav I'll do is that I will, of course, these questions are mostly on LinkedIn. So
Right.
if you get some time over the next 1 or 2 days, please take some time to answer some of the questions. I will also try and do the same. But I think we are almost up on time. I said last question earlier, but really last one now. If someone wants to know a little bit more in terms of reading a book or some other resource, what would you suggest quickly about these topics?
Yeah, I think so we've had a lot of folks ask about what's a good course on AI to take, and that actually has inspired us to launch a course as well. So it's you can it's rolling out next week, but we're kind of opening up early access to just sign up and get it because we're going to
Hmm.
be rolling it out in parts. So all you need to do is go to fluid.ai/course, and you can sign up for that course. And it's going to be we're going to be launching basically two levels of courses. One course around uh, business users, how they can leverage in AI in their day to day and in their work to make it more efficient. What are the tools? What are the right approaches? There's another one that we're launching, which is going to be more technical, which is like for developers. Like RAG is a big concept for retrieval augmented generation. So how to
Hmm.
optimize for it, how to work it. So yeah, definitely sign up on fluid.ai/course. But other good material to read is I think following a few like on YouTube. There's a lot of great content that's coming. There's
Hmm.
something called 2 minute papers that you guys should have a look at. It just talks about the latest innovation and trends that are happening in AI. Uh, that's been a great source as well. I think World of AI is another one that I found really powerful. They just keep telling you what's happening latest and what you can look at from a resource perspective.
Good. I think that is fantastic. And before I end, I will take the opportunity to wish you, of course, and your family and all our audience happy Dasara today. The show will take most likely a break next week. I'm traveling a little bit, but if something comes up, I will certainly announce another one. Toward the end of the month, we will have another interesting one, which is bringing together the lessons learned from yoga and AI. Author called Sunil Malhotra, who's put together this interesting book. It's not really AI in the sense that we know, but he's bringing together a lot of knowledge that we have from different areas into one area, and that is on 26th. So, with that, Abhinav, thank you very much. And to my
Yeah.
audience, hope you enjoyed this. Till the next time, thank you. Bye bye.
All right. Thank you all. Take care.